Hello and welcome to the Proffitt Show. I'm your host, Monika Proffitt, and I'm here today with Marcus Laun, the Executive Vice President of Business Development at Sky Quarry. Whew, that is uh, kind of a mouthful. Welcome so much, Marcus. I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk a little bit about Sky Quarry because I was digging into it and I've got a bit of a summary about you guys that I think is really interesting. When I hear about a quarry of some sort, I usually think it's extractive, it's just pulling more things out of the ground, and that doesn't always seem like a great idea, but this is really different and I love it. So I'm gonna plug you for a second because I'm so happy with this. Sky Quarry is a fully integrated energy solutions company. It's focused on transforming asphalt shingle waste into valuable products. Every year, over 15 million tons of waste shingles end up in North American landfills, and their mission is to divert this waste. They conserve resources and recycle the materials, which reintroduces them right back into the market. By doing so, they're creating value while actively contributing to a cleaner, more sustainable environment. That's the best quarry that I can imagine. So thank you so much for joining us and talking about Sky Quarry today.
Thank you.
You guys founded this a few years ago, is that right? You had to kind of buy a traditional refinery and then retrofit it to the right to be able to process roof shingles.
Yes, we're in the process of completing our retrofitting, and we actually have two facilities. We have a refinery, and then we have an extraction facility. And the extraction facility is really what does the heavy lifting with the shingle material.
That's fantastic. Now, the shingle material, is this sort of like a no-brainer where you get paid to take people's trash and then you also get paid to sell it because you make cool things out of it?
That is the goal, and that's the idea, and that's really what got me excited about the business model when we were getting started. There's more and more pressure, from municipalities to ban or restrict the amount of waste that goes into landfills. And something that you're probably not aware of is that in the United States, construction and demolition waste is actually 200% of municipal solid waste. So all the garbage that you see coming out of households, there's twice as much coming from construction and demolition going into landfills today.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I mean, I think maybe trying to hold on to my optimism, I might not want to memorize too many of the facts about what's going in the landfills.
Yeah,
I'll just focus on what you're doing to solve it.
yeah. So that's really what we're trying to attack is, municipalities don't want to expand permits for landfills, uh, and they don't want to open permits for more. So more and more trash is actually being uh, transported further and further. I know you're in New York right now, and the garbage coming from New York gets shipped, all over the country because there's nowhere that they're allowing it to go in New York. And so not only is it a problem from a landfilling perspective, it's also a problem because that garbage to move it, has a carbon footprint on its own.
That's a huge carbon footprint. I had no idea. I mean, I'm one of maybe the few New Yorkers that I can't spend enough time on the West Coast that I meticulously sort my trash and I'm always recycling and I know what's supposed to go where and there's a compost bin down the street and I use it. But I know that I'm in a vast minority. In New York City, most people are like, no one's caught me yet. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to have caught on for some reason. Maybe there's
Yeah,
just not enough pristine nature around to remind you that you want have something to try to preserve, you know?
yeah.
So both of your refinery and your extraction facility are in Utah, correct?
No, the refinery is in Nevada, and
Oh,
the
okay.
extraction facility is in Utah.
I think I just saw the overview on this extraction facility. You've got
Yeah.
some great videos on your website, and we'll be sure to include that in the show notes. There's a lot about Sky Quarry, but not just what you guys are up to, but your latest fundraise. This is really interesting because, I also was in investment banking in the past, and you have a long history in investment banking, much longer than me. And you've clearly been rubbing elbows in institutional circles for a long time. But this is a really interesting approach to your fundraise at this particular process. Not only because you've got a public sale going on, which is a different way of doing things to build retail appetite, but you also, it's in anticipation of then going public, which is really interesting to me as a retail investor or to the retail investors that I know, to be able to see something with a clear trajectory of where it's going to go in terms of its share price and in terms of who's going to get in second. Usually it's institutions that get in first and they get the deal, and then the retail gets the later kind of higher price. How has this process been for you to architect your fundraise this way?
Yeah, yeah, my background is in investment banking, and I've spent years trying to sell early stage deals to institutions, and it's not exactly fun. And I started doing crowdfundings, back when it started around 2015, 2016, and really got to understand, the mechanism of, that reaching that consumer or that investor. And in the microcap space, companies have to be story driven. And when David and I founded the company, we really felt that this was a great public company story, because so many companies that try and be clean tech companies aren't really appropriate for retail investors or small cap investors. Whereas we're highly confident that this is a great fit for a retail investor. So
Do you mean
we
they're not a good fit because they can't tell a good story? They don't have as much of a truly good positive impact on the planet?
No, just in my experience, clean tech companies that try and launch as public companies either have a very long runway in order to demonstrate technology, or aren't necessarily high growth or high profit enough companies to be viable as a small cap company, and really sustainably uh, fund operations. So the retail investor ends up holding the bag in some of those deals. And we thought Sky Quarry has such a great profit profile and business model that is really appropriate, because we don't have a huge capex need to generate a lot of revenue, and our technology is, give or take, off the shelf, even though we have proprietary components to it, but it's not expensive for us to grow the business. So we thought that that was a very good fit for the retail investor, to prove that there's going to be appetite once we're public, by having 8,000 investors by the time we list on NASDAQ.
Yeah, and I saw that in your one of your summary videos. You have 8,000 investors and you've already raised quite a bit of money this way. This has been really successful. What's your current raise and how much are you trying to raise before you go public?
Our current raise is open for up to $20 million, and what we're doing now, combined with our previous efforts, really makes us one of the top 25 crowdfund offerings that have ever been closed. So we're really excited about our track record, and our fans that are our shareholders.
One of the top 25 crowdfunded projects is nothing to scoff at. That's incredible. And when you talk about how, you've got so many paths to profitability, can we discuss a little bit what these customer offers are? Like what has gone out? It sounds like you've got sustainable crude oil, which I don't even know how that works, and sand and granules and all these different things. Can you tell me a little bit about these avenues and how you're bringing them to market?
Yeah. So the beauty of a shingle is that once you break it apart, all those components of a shingle can then be resold into the marketplace. So you can sell it into the construction industry, you can sell it into paving, you can sell it back to the shingle makers, because they're very keen to be able to sell a product that's partially post-consumer, because the shingle industry is buying 20 million barrels of oil every year just to make new shingles, and if they can take part of that out of post-consumer waste, it's a big opportunity for them.
Yeah, and that also leads right into carbon credits. I mean, the carbon credit opportunity here must be pretty sizable.
Yeah, there's I think a big opportunity in carbon credits, as well as thinking about there's a lot of benefits to low carbon fuels and tax incentives for that. So the fact that our Nevada facility is close to California is actually good for that, because we can take advantage of some of the opportunities there. And
That's fantastic.
we've already been approached, from some big rail companies and transportation companies on renewable diesel, and the fact that we're taking a waste product and making fuel out of it is pretty compelling. I think we'll be one of the low cost providers in that field.
That's fantastic. Have you been, in terms of carbon credits, are you I know just enough to be dangerous about that space. I've interviewed a couple people who run exchanges, some of them even in the blockchain space, that are looking to kind of get that economy more transparent and liquid and all of that. Are you listing on any carbon credit exchanges or making any partnerships there, or is this really kind of one off and they're private, with each deal that you do?
No, we're gonna start looking at those exchanges now. Our focus has really been to launch operations, and really get the front end of the business. And as we start making the sustainable fuels, and we can start attacking the carbon side. And that's really one of the things that I find exciting about our business model, is that it doesn't depend on any subsidies or any carbon credits or anything like that for its profitability. Like we are profitable, just off of our business model, and the carbon credits and tax credits and things like that that were available to get will just add. It's gravy. It's not what
Yeah,
we're dependent on.
it's icing on the cake,
Yeah.
on the sustainable crude oil cake. This really fits in with a larger philosophy that I think is taking hold more in business. Of course, as we're more young people are coming up and saying, "Oh, wow, are we gonna have a planet? Thanks, guys. When you ruined some stuff for us? What are we supposed to do with this? This isn't what you inherited. It's worse." And
Yeah.
and so seeing these new transitions, not only philosophically but in action, it's really interesting. I think the one phrase that I kind of hang my hat on is this global energy transition. And I'm wondering if you can tell me a bit more about that. If that's something that philosophically you brought into this company, or did it grow out of your exposure to all the opportunity within this paradigm and this framework?
No, I think David and I have talked about energy transition for a long time. It's a lot easier to change an industry once you're an insider as opposed to an outsider. And that's why we focused on making sure that we could make commodity products that can go into the commodity supply chain, and then only focus on sustainability once that generates a premium in the market. Because I've seen too many businesses that focus on selling something green when the market isn't ready for it, and that's an uphill battle. Our products are all commodity products, so we can sell them into the industrial supply chain, and so that's a benefit. And I think the lesson that we've learned, or that we're learning over the last 2 years, is that for our economy to transition, it can't be a binary change to be quote unquote green. We have to transition from our normal day to day, lifestyle and quality of living and how we approach things, and add green over time. Because to try and switch all cars to electric in 5 years is just impossible, because you don't have a grid that can support it, and all these other factors. So you have to think about a way that you can wean people off of things that are less beneficial to things that are more sustainable, but it's going to happen over time. It can't happen instantly.
It is a bit of a continental drift at this point. It's true. Um, and this kind of touches on it a little bit too, but the circular economy piece of this, how do you see this? I mean, I can already envision it. Like a truck pulls up with a bunch of asphalt that would have gone to the shingles that would have gone to the dump, and then suddenly another truck pulls up later and takes away all these products. But a circular economy in general, what are your thoughts? How do you define that?
So essentially, we have a couple of different circles that we focus on. One is taking the shingles and making all different kinds of building materials out of it, and that's one way to think of it as circularity. And then the other one is a tighter circle that's just for the shingle industry itself, which they can actually take all of the products that we make and start making shingles with them again. So you can get to a shingle that is a higher and higher percentage of post-consumer waste. And if you think about the, right now, 95% of shingles are going to landfills. And I said it's about 15 million tons a year. And just to give you an idea of the physical size of that waste, it's about the cubic volume of 150 city blocks. And that's happening every year
Wow.
across the United States. So in the shingle business, that's 95% of the waste. And a lot of that can actually be reused within the shingle industry once you get the full network and the full infrastructure in place. And that would, allow the shingle industry to start looking and feeling like the paving industry, because paved roads or asphalt roads are 95% recycled. So when you see a new road going down, it's 95% of that material is old road that's been rejuvenated. We could do the same thing with shingles.
I had no idea. I've always thought, oh wow, there's more of that toxic stuff going down, but that's really heartening to know that 95% of it is recycled already.
Yeah,
That's a lot of traction in one particular space. I hope that more and more
yeah,
industries can follow that,
yeah, that's what we're here
cement and
for.
everything else.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So your background didn't really necessarily preclude that you would be interested in all of these circular economy, abstract thinking, banking hullabaloo. I was looking into your background, and it's such a myth that when you start being a grown up, starting adulting, you just adult. Everybody just knows how to adult. It's just no big deal. And you just go down a trajectory and now you're suddenly where you are. And it's just not true. And I always like to debunk that myth because, if people are looking out and thinking about their future and they're thinking about how, we need more solutions like this. But if you look back far enough into all of these established, well-known experts in their fields, you can find that they may have started in a very different place. And it was heartening to see that your background, your Bachelor of Science was in hospitality management and
Yep.
hotels. And so having also a background in restaurants and hospitality, I feel like we're kindred souls. But can you tell me a little bit about how you found your way from there into investment banking? That's a big leap,
Yeah,
both of us.
it's a funny story, but like the real inflection point was, I was working at a hotel, a five-star hotel in New York, and I was a manager of a restaurant. A bunch of Wall Street guys came in and had a nice dinner and spent a bunch of money, and I decided I wanted to go to Wall Street and I wanted to have the dinners instead of serve the dinners, and that was a real inflection point for me.
Proximity is power, even if it's just exposure, then it's envy. But that's fantastic. That's so funny. Yeah, similarly, I was like, I think I want to be having more of these types of dinners, not serving them. So, well, I really appreciate you coming to talk about this, and especially the raise itself. I know that it's really not going to be available on the retail side in the pre-IPO for very long. We've got a target date, it looks like, of September 18th, and then to close this for a retail investment. So that's like not very long from now. And if you're listening to this way after September 18th, it's September 18th, 2024. And after that, we will find this. It sounds like by late September, you're going to be doing the IPO,
Hmm.
and we've got a ticker symbol, right? What is the ticker symbol that you have for this?
It's a SKYQ.
SKYQ. So people won't necessarily completely miss out on investing. They always can once it's on the Nasdaq, but in the pre, unlike so many other raises, you can get ahead of the institutional money and the price fluctuation if you get in before the September 18th. So I just want to make sure people get a chance to check that out. We'll be sure to put the investment information and prospectus and the disclaimers in the show notes and on the links that we provide. Is there anything else about this process that you would like to touch on?
Not off the top of my head. I think we've covered it, but I appreciate you, taking the time.
Absolutely. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've a newfound hope for our, waste-filled future. Will hopefully be a little bit less like the movie Idiocracy and a little less dystopian,
Yeah,
hopefully soon enough. And
we
so
hope so
thank
too.
you. Yes, it's been a pleasure. Marcus Laub, I really appreciate you coming on and joining us today. I'm so sorry, I just missaid your name. Marcus Laun. I've been saying Laub in my mind for like all morning, and I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. And then I did it. I'm so sorry. Marcus
It's okay.
Laun, I appreciate you so much coming on this show.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.